Welcome to the Lech Dich Parsha podcast, where we delve into the Torah's timeless wisdom and uncover uplifting and empowering lessons tailored to the challenges of our generation.
Good dinner, Shabbos, Parshas Vayishlach, Toshon Pei Vav. I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a wonderful week. This week's shir is sponsored by the Weinberg family of Minneapolis, Minnesota, Le'ila Nishmas, the passing of our grandmother, Bubby, Devoira, Basia, Bas, Shabsi, Allah Shalom, and Hashem had Aliyah. May she be a meditation for the entire Mishpacha. Thank you to our corporate sponsors, the Hassan's Also Law Firm, T7 Capital, and Bluestone Brokerage. For future dedications, to sponsor the Lech Dich weekly Parsha publication and podcast, please reach out to 845-367-2959. So this past Monday marked the passing of my wife's grandmother, Devorah Basia, Bas Shabsi Allah Shalom, known to the entire community as Bubby. Mrs. Debbie Weinberg was not just a pillar, but as seen on many of the copy that circulated the Midwest and beyond about her passing, she was literally the matriarch of the entire Minneapolis, Minnesota community. She lived a long, fruitful, and accomplished life. She was a woman who truly lived for others. She was selfless. She spent her days, I was there for Yom Tovim, I was there during the year Shabbosim. She was always thanking Hashem for all the good she had in her life. And even towards the end, when she was sick, and when she didn't have koach, she was always akol neshimu neshimu talaka, always thanking the Eibishter. She was always saying how she was undeserving, and yet she was always happy, always smiling, and forever aware and gracious for all of the bracha in her life. And she constantly spoke about how great Hashem is and how truly blessed she felt. Her passing was very sudden, and all of her grandchildren came together, mostly flying in for her levayah this past week on Tuesday. My wife and I went into Minneapolis to pay tribute and honor one last time to someone who had lived so fully for us. And as much as we thought we were going there to give back and honor her, even in her passing, a giver remains a giver. And when we visited her, no longer physically present, somehow she still gave. And in that way, she always will. Because indeed, it wasn't her words, it wasn't her jokes, a hug, or even her mere presence that made the impact this time. She wasn't there. It was meeting her legacy. It was experiencing that, witnessing what she left behind. The untold stories of her life revealed the greatness of the woman she was. How she cared for her family, her extended family. It didn't just stop at her children, her grandchildren, her great-grandchildren. It went to her siblings, her nieces, nephews, great-nephews, great-nephews, and nieces, and all those in need. Those who were unnoticed, those who had little, and those who just weren't a part of anything, lacking a sense of community, didn't have family, those were her best friends. That was her life. That was her legacy. And when we witnessed it, we were reminded of what we are truly here for. We were reminded that life has an expiration date. And ultimately, all we leave behind is the names we made for ourselves. And this was her giving to everyone, giving purpose and sense of mission. And that's on a general, more global level, but there was more, particularly for my wife, who shared her experience with me. And I want to mention that I likely would have felt the same way she did, and could have spoken from my own perspective. Yet part of my avodah, Baruch Hashem, as being a privileged kohen, requires that I avoid contracting tumah. So I had to wait at the foot of the mountain of the Beis HaKvaros. So it's only her reflections and her perspective that I can share instead. And what she told me is as follows. And it's important to realize that often we're inspired by holy sites, by Mekayim Kadeshim, by the Kaisel, by kever, by Meron, Uman, or in Karistir Hungary at the Tzion of Reb Shaila. Yet the most powerful inspiration for us, which we haven't experienced in a long time, came this week at the levayah, more particularly at the kevura of the cemetery in Richfield, Minnesota. The cold, snowy, and windy day it was really set a perfect stage, a fitting stage for the lesson which we've learned. The weather reflected the undeniable reality of life, which is that even in a life's end, a legacy can be born, which is the most inspiring thing. When a guy thinks of the end, it's the end. But for Yid, That's only where it starts. That's where the legacy begins. That's where the person can shine through. The neshama really pierces through everything. So when we arrived, seeing the tombstones, like in any Jewish cemetery, Cohn, Levy, Goldberg, Friedman, Katz, reminded us that no one is spared. A whole lifetime, and it all ends the same. People come in selfishly or selflessly. And standing by the kfura, but home a hard truth, that life has a firm, unchangeable end. And every decision, every moment is fleeting. And the opportunities, mitzvahs, acts of gemilas chasadim and Torah we learn, that is what we take, and that is what we can show in our favor and merit in the next world. Those opportunities, though, which are left behind, are gone forever. We must chaperein, like the Gemara says, chatoif achol, chatoif shasi, grab, eat while you can, drink while you can, referring to the mitzvahs in this world, because in the next world you can't. My wife's grandmother, Bobby, she lived her life as a giver, as a makar toiv, always thanking the Eibishter, always thankful for her family and all the bracha she had in her life. And she was a pillar and beacon of light. And that is what she will always be remembered for eternity. And what seems like the end, 6 feet under, in the cold, rain, and snow, is in reality only the beginning of her eternal legacy. Her life reminds us that we too are here for a reason. We're here for a purpose. We have a takir. We're confronted daily with choices that shape our legacy. And in the end, all that matters is how we live for others, the mitzvahs we perform, the kindness we give to others, and the name we leave behind. And when we go 6 feet under, that's when it all starts. And it's hard to remember. It's hard to live with this on a constant basis. And for that reason specifically, it needs the most reminding, the most physic, and reminder of the basic values, the basic truths. And while some people might call this morbid, I respectfully disagree. This is life itself. This is right now. Forget about what you do in 10 years or in 20 years. The question is, what will you do right now to live for that eternity? What will you do the moment this year is over, and reading this paper, whatever it may be? It's all about the journey. Lech dich. Keep on going. The journey. Every day, the steps, the grind. And how you're going to live it, elevated, purposefully. How are you going to make it all about the Eibishter? We all know that we are sons and daughters of royalty. We're children of the king, of the Melech himself. And we're here to accomplish and to grow and to achieve, to invest in our ruchnius, in our nitzchis. Yet we often forget when we lose track of the days. They just pass by in a whirlwind, going on, and it becomes days and then months and years. And we lose focus of the priorities, and we live in a world of distortion. It's so hard. A world influenced by the Yetzer Hara. That is why moments like these reflections are so important. They help us recalibrate. We live in this world, but we are meant for more. And for higher purposes, we're meant to live for the Eibishter and for eternity. And we constantly need to be reminded that we're b'nei olam haba, we're children of the world to come. We're chaya olam dik, not chaya yishah, not just what's in front of us, right? Not for now. As Yaakov Avinu prepared to meet his brother Esav, after many years, he feared Esav's anger and his potential violence. So he took measures to protect his family and possessions. He davened with Hashem, he divided his camp into 2 machanos and sent gifts of animals ahead as a gesture of appeasement. He instructed the servants very clearly, and he told them as follows. He gave them gemalim and ikus, he gave them donkeys and camels, and he gave them each one flocks and herds. Here's the flocks, and leave a space between each one. And then Yaakov says very interesting instructions. He commands the first group, saying, Ki yifkashcha Esav achi, when my brother encounters you, and he asks you, who are you? Where are you going? Where are you from? Who is this before you? Tell him, it's for your servant Yaakov. It's coming from Yaakov, and it's a gesture of appeasement for you. And Yaakov also is behind us. For the Chafetz Chaim, ask the Chafetz Chaim a very simple, straightforward kasha. Ask the Chafetz Chaim, Yaakov Avinu was running away. Yaakov Avinu was scared for his life. And now he's sending a gesture of appeasement. Wouldn't it make more sense? Wouldn't it be mistaber? Yaakov Avinu should stay out of the limelight as much as possible. He should be running away from any sort of attention. And he should focus on the gift. He should focus on the gesture of appeasement. So he should have told the Avadim, if he encounters you, tell him right away, here, Esav, look, I'm so excited to see you. We know you love meat. We know you love good steak. Here's all the animals. We want to make peace. We want to make nice. But no, Yaakov, very interestingly, counterintuitively, says, what should he say? The first thing, the first response, the first thing should be is that you're coming la'avdachal Yaakov. You're coming from your Eved Yaakov. That's the first thing. That's on the tip of your tongue. Say mincha yishlucha. Say that it's for you. It's a matana. It's a peace offering. Why is Yaakov adamant that the first thing that should be mentioned upon encounter is Yaakov Avinu himself? Very straightforward question. Says the Chafetz Chaim, life Yesod. The Chafetz Chaim says that the difference between Yaakov and Esav wasn't just to Esav saying as Yaakov that they hated each other for who they were. Esav and Yaakov were different at the core. Esav and Yaakov were different ideologically. They were different b'mehusam in their essence. They were mere enemies, but they represented two completely opposite worldviews. Yaakov stood for Torah, for ruchnius, for spirituality, as opposed to Esav, who embodied Olam Hazeh, worldly pleasures, pursuits, and living for the moment. Chayei Shah, what's in front of me, what's right now. He personified, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. And Yaakov anticipated that when his servants meet Esav, he would have tried to charm them or to pull them into his way of life. Yaakov preempted this. Yaakov anticipated this. And Yaakov knew he had to prepare them. He had to inculcate them with the fortitude, with the resilience, with the resolve to know I am different, I am special, I'm an Eved Yaakov, I'm a Ben Olam Haba, I'm a Chayei Olam, I am an eternal Jew, and I, for not 1 second, am marketing and branding myself as a free agent, that I'm being recruited. There's not even a shayla. And therefore, says the Chafetz Chaim, it wasn't only enough for Yaakov to say, tell Esav, this is the meat, this is the appeasement. Yaakov preempted all of the questions, all the different ways that Esav could have possibly positioned and asked the question. And then Yaakov says, the first thing that you answer is Vamarto. Tell them, la'avdachal Yaakov. Don't read it the simple pshat of the pasuk that I'm coming from Yaakov. No, v'omarta, you tell them, la'avdachal Yaakov. I am an Eved of Yaakov. I have nothing to do with you. There's a big iron curtain. There's a boulder. There's iron bricks. There's everything between us. And don't try to chat me for 1 second. Yaakov, you need to affirm this immediately and remind them that they should be reminded that they're themselves, of their true identity, and not being open for 1 second. Not for 1 second can the avirah, can the atmosphere, can the influence of Esav come in. And the first thing is V'marta la'avdachal Yaakov. You are a Ben Yaakov, you're an Eved Yaakov, you're an Eved Hashem, and you're not touching, you're not willing to budge a kutzei shel yud a tiny bit. You have a source, you belong to Yaakov, you're on a mission, and don't get sidetracked. Don't get sucked in, stay focused, and remember who you are. Remember that you are a Ben Melech, you are a prized child of the king, and that is what Yaakov was telling the Avadim. And that, says the Chafetz Chaim, is the reason why Yaakov preempted all these questions. And Yaakov even said, there's no budging, there's no questions, there's no deviation. You're on a mission, don't forget that, and make Esav be quite and acutely aware of that. We are all on journeys. We all encounter the Yetzer Hara. And we have to make it clear that there are guidelines, and we have to come to him and say, V'marta la'avdachal Yaakov, we're avodim of the Eibishter, we're avodim of our mission in this world. And I don't care what's going on around us. I don't care what everyone else is doing. I don't care about my past. I don't care about what's going to be. I'm focused on the now. I'm focused on my eternity. And I will not budge unwaveringly. I am committed to that. and nothing's going to change me. Nothing's going to take me down. We're constantly reliving the Yaakov and Esav, the battle of the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Tov. And when we have this ingrained, it wasn't just Yaakov Avinu telling us about them to respond to this during that time. Says the Chafetz Chaim, it's the eternal, perpetual message, the response that we have to have at the tip of our tongues to make sure when we encounter these situations, they are fortified and ready to fight. When Margaret Thatcher became Prime Minister in 1979, she had her first meeting with Queen Elizabeth II, who was already known for her carefully chosen public image, often dressing in bright, distinctive colors. And on the day of their meeting, Margaret Thatcher realized with horror that she was wearing the same exact dress as the Queen. She immediately began shaking, worried about what the Queen might think, and feeling that this was a serious breach of royal decorum, even though it was completely accidental and unavoidable. She literally feared her life. She wasn't sure how the Queen is going to react. She wasn't sure if the King is going to kick her out. And finally, the meeting passed, and they discussed what had to be discussed, what was the issue at hand. And after the meeting, Thatcher went back home, and this was just overtaking her, how she's going to apologize, how she's going to present it to her, how she's going to apologize, excuse herself. She was beside herself, and she thought, you know what? Okay, I'm going to go back home, we'll let a day pass. I'm going to reach back out to the Queen and just apologize and just say it was a complete mishap. So the Kahava, Thatcher reached out to the Queen, and she apologized profusely and insisting that the mishap hadn't been intentional. And the Queen looked at her blankly, totally not understanding, like, Mrs. Thatcher, what are you even talking about? What were you referring to? What are you apologizing about? And now Margaret Thatcher was completely, utterly confused. She was flustered. Is this some type of plan? Is this some type of scheme against her? Is this the end of her life? But she had no option. She had no brayer. She was here to explain herself, to excuse herself. And Thatcher clarified it, and she said, Your Majesty, the other day when I came to meet you, I was wearing the same exact dress. And I am so sorry. I apologize. I'm absolutely mortified. I'm horrified. And I hope, Your Honor, that you can forgive me. The Queen paused, looked at Thatcher, and answered calmly. The Queen does not notice what commoners are wearing. Rabbi, we are all royalty. We are not commoners. We are not regular people. Chazal teach that the creation, the whole Bria, there are 5 levels. There's a Dainim, there's a Tzaneach, there's a Chai, there's a Medaber, and there's an Adam, there's a human. And some add that there's a 6th level, an entirely separate entity, which is called the Yid. We are elevated, we are chosen, and we are children, we are Bnei Malachim, we are Ben and Bas of the King himself. And when we truly grasp this and live with this awareness, this truth, we can look at the Satan that's come with all the distortion, all the confusion, all the Bahala, all the insanity, and all the corruption of this world, with all the allure and shtusin, and say, my friend, I don't care. I'm a Ben, I'm a Bas Melech, jump in the lake. Or as the Queen's words to Margaret Thatcher, the Queen does not notice what commoners are wearing. So too we can declare, I don't care about the insanity, I don't care about the corruption and the distortions of this world. I know who I am, I know where I belong, and I will not succumb to all that you have to offer. I am better, I am elevated, I am noble, I am the Ben, I am the Bas of the King, and I don't care what everyone else, I don't care what commoners do. Yaakov Avinu reminds us this truth when he instructed his servants to carry the words of Abdecha Yaakov on the tips of their tongues, so they would not spend even a second of entertaining Esav. Not for a moment imagine they were free agents, open to influence or on the market. Their identity had to be clear, unwavering, and spoken out loud. And this is the takeaway from my wife's grandmother, Bubby's passing. The lesson she leaves us is, even in her absence, is that we too are here on a mission. We have a tafkid, and one day we will all be 6 feet under. All we will have is what we accomplished here, the name we built, the legacies we formed, and the life we lived. This isn't morbid. It's the reality that gives life its urgency and focus. Yaakov worried about his servants. Imagine the madrega they were on. The Abde Yaakov, hand chosen by Yaakov Avinu, and he still feared the pull of Esav's influence. Are we stronger than them? If they needed the constant chizik, the clarity of identity, how much more do we? We must know who we are, why we are here, and what we belong to. We are B'nai and B'nois Melech, children of the King, placed here with a tafkid to accomplish, to elevate, to make the world a better place with Torah, Chesed, Mitzvahs, and Ma'asim Tovim. Not to be swept into the insanities and distortions of the world around us, but to stand with dignity, purpose, and the deep knowledge of our true identity. Bobby, we will miss you. Thank you for continuing to give, because true givers remain givers, even when they are no longer physically here. May Hashem have an aliyah. It will be a meditation for the entire mishpacha and for all of Klal Yisrael. Wishing you all a wonderful Shabbos.
I thank each and every one of you for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and I wish you a wonderful Shabbos.